Okay, in this video tutorial we're going to go through the 7 life processes. So, we've nicknamed these Mrs. Gren. Mrs. Gren is basically an acronym, so each letter stands for one of the life processes. And this should be probably a little bit revision for you guys. It's nothing too complicated, and we're not going to spend too long on it. So Mrs. Gren, what does each letter stand for? Well, let's kick it off. How can we remember the 7 life processes? Let's start with M. M is for movement. So living things, all living things move. Animals can walk and run. Plants can turn to face the light, so they can orient their leaves so that they face the light. They can grow towards or away from things. But lots of people don't actually realize how much plants actually can move. And a good example here, this is time lapse. Here you can see a flower opening. So there you go, a flower opening. And so that's probably over the course of a day, or maybe just over a day. But flowers actually move reasonably quickly. Maybe not quickly by our standards. You know, we can run across the room in a few seconds. But plants probably move more than you give them credit for. And if you watch this video carefully, not only does the flower open here, watch the rest of the plant. The rest of the plant here, especially here when it's closing. Alright, we actually get a little bit of movement, here we go, a little bit of movement in the rest of the plant too there. And that's movement's probably a little bit too quick to be growth, so it's not just growing, we actually get some movement there too. And that's got to do with a plant can sort of pump water into some parts of the plant and take water out of others, essentially to make it move. So all living things are capable of moving one way or another. Alright, respire. The R is for respire or respiration. So, living things breathe in oxygen and release carbon dioxide. So this is an essential process to release energy from the food we eat. So respiration is the process by which we release energy from our food, and it's very similar to burning. If we burn something, like burn a piece of wood, essentially we release energy. It takes in oxygen. You need oxygen to burn something, and it releases carbon dioxide. And that's why we often talk about burning carbs or burning calories. What we're actually doing is we're undergoing respiration. So if you go for a jog to burn off your dessert or your dinner, what you're actually doing is as you run, you increase your rate of respiration, the rate at which you release the energy from the food by using oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. So a very similar process to burning, and that's why we often use the term, burning off our food. But the difference is basically just that we don't actually have a fire inside us. We don't actually produce a flame. It's a little bit different. We release kind of chemical energy for our cells to run, and so that enables us to move. So its actual name is respiration. Some living things, and I should say that here, there is an exception, some living things can respire without oxygen. They'll actually use a slightly different element. They might use something like, I think it might be sulfur, but a few things can actually respire using something other than oxygen, but the process is very much the same, and that's really an exception to the rule. So as far as you guys are concerned, just learn this definition, that when things respire, they're using oxygen to release the energy in their food and releasing carbon dioxide. Alright, what are we up to? S, sensitivity. So all animals and plants are sensitive. So animals can see, touch, smell, taste, hear. Plants are sensitive to light, touch, heat, and moisture. So plants are sensitive to things too. Now this is probably the one we're actually going to be focusing on in our topic and in the next few tutorials, is sensitivity. How are we able to sense? How are we sensitive, especially us as animals? We're not going to look at the plant side of things too much, but how is it that animals are sensitive to these things? And we're going to look at basically the nervous system and how we pick up those sensory inputs and how we process them. But all living things are sensitive in one way or another. And sensitivity really means that we have some awareness, we have some way of sensing our environment, what's going on around us, and some way of therefore actually responding to it usually is a part of that. Okay, growth. So all living things can grow. All living things grow. And I think that's pretty straightforward. I think we can skip that one. Alright, reproduce. So Gren, G-R, all living things can reproduce, which basically just means all living things reproduce in order to produce more of the same kind, more of themselves. So when living things reproduce, they produce more of whatever they are. So dogs produce more dogs, cats produce more cats, humans produce humans. We're able to make more of ourselves, to make another generation. E, what do we got here? E, excrete, so excretion. So all living things need to get rid of waste products, so we release some form of wastes. For us, that's our urine and our feces. But for other things, it can be gases. Respiration. One of our carbon dioxide is technically a waste. So all living things produce some sort of waste as a process as part of their living, and that ties in with our last one. All right, N, nutrition. So all living things need food to keep them healthy and help them to grow strong. Well, we can actually go a little bit more detail to that. So we need food. You will have learned that probably last year. You need food for growth, for energy, and to repair damaged tissues. So for energy and growth and repair, we need food. Nutrition is essentially that food. We need some sort of material that acts as an energy source. And if not an energy source, like plants can actually use the sun's energy, the plants will still need some sort of building block in order to actually make materials out of. And believe it or not, the major building block for plants is actually carbon dioxide. It pieces the carbon and the oxygen and carbon dioxide together with the hydrogen and the oxygen and water. So carbon dioxide and water are really the building blocks that plants can grow off. But plants actually produce some food themselves using the sun's energy. So again, there's still kind of some chemical energy involved in there, something that they've pieced together, nutrition. Now, some definitions, some textbooks include some extra letters. You might see Mrs. C. Gren. The C, some people say cells or cellular, so one definition sometimes people include for living is that things are made out of cells. It's not really a life process, that's why we haven't included it here. And there's a few other things that some definitions sometimes include something else as living, but these are the key life processes. These are the things that living things do. Okay, so we're going to leave it there. A really nice quick one. Alright, so a really nice quick one. Basically, there's our 7 life processes summed up nicely with our little acronym here, Mrs. Gren. So all you really need to do that, you should know what each letter stands for, maybe be able to describe each one, but yeah, really just know what each letter stands for. It's not that difficult. Movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. And the R's, the respiration and the reproduction, I'm not too fussed which way around you put them. It's not really important, it's not the point. But just this will help you remember what the 7 life processes are. Okay, let's get on to the next one.